We are Chris Lee, Blake Lovell, and Max Barr of Southeastern 14 here to preview SEC basketball action for Wednesday night. We've got 3 games: Tennessee visiting Mississippi State, Florida traveling to Oxford to face Ole Miss, Arkansas looking for a rebound after a disastrous performance going to Georgia, which just won on the road. We'll break all 3 of those down momentarily in order of tip-off, but a reminder, this preview brought to you by BetOnline. With NFL playoffs right around the corner and the NBA season in full swing, BetOnline has you covered with all the up-to-second odds, news, and scores. With additional odds, lines, trends, and info on both mobile and desktop, you can access the world's best wagering information at any time. Head there today to get in on the action, see all the updated odds. Remember to use the promo code BELIEVE, that is BLEAV, to get your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Well, the games start on Wednesday night in the SEC in Starkville, where Mississippi State will host Tennessee. Tip-off 6 Central. The line, and we do an average of BPI, Bart Torvik and Ken Pomeroy. As we do this, the line officially not out, but the lines generally follow the computers pretty closely. They see Tennessee as a 2.5-point favorite with about a 59.5% chance to win. Max, I'll start with you. We were talking off air, and you said, I think astutely, a lot of people are going to jump on Tennessee 2.5 and go with it. But this is a matchup of a team. Remember, Mississippi State has got Tolo Smith that didn't have him before. This is a grind-you-out team against a team that has trouble even now with more offensive talent and spurts at generating consistency. I think this is a fascinating matchup.
Yeah, I mean, we have the average of all of our different sites at 2.5, but even if it comes out 3.5, 4, even 5, I feel like a lot of people are just going to jump all over Tennessee, and that scares me a little bit because this Mississippi State team, you have not seen them at their best yet. And if you watched Rick Barnes's press conference from yesterday, he said we were at our best. That was our best 40 minutes of basketball we have played. I mean, you have Jemai Mashak making 2 threes. Rick Barnes said he told Mashak, you don't have to shoot the ball. We just need you to be elite on defense. So you're getting 2 threes out of Mashak. You're getting just a perfect performance. And then contrarily, Mississippi State, you haven't gotten more than 20 minutes out of Tolu Smith. You are in all this foul trouble, choppy, slow road game. So you're getting a team coming off of their absolute peak against a team that is just chomping at the bit to try to get back on track, which is very dangerous. Mississippi State does a lot defensively that is different than what Ole Miss does. It's much different scheme. You're not going to get I think Tennessee shot 33s. I would be surprised if they have 30 attempts at Mississippi State. So I know we just had Tennessee at number 1 in our power rankings, but hey, this is a game of matchups, and this one is scaring me. I'm not going to lie. I think a line right at 2.5 might be right on, because this is going to be a close one in my eyes. What do you think, Blake?
Well, I like my historical trends here.
Oh, boy.
I mean, to this point, they've held up. Let's just call it what it is. They've held up to this point. But it is worth noting, in the last 10 meetings, which Tennessee's dominated this series, in the last 10 meetings, though, here's what's interesting. Mississippi State scored 59 or fewer points in 7 of those 10 games. They scored 63 in 2022. They scored 73. They scored 86 in 2020, which they won that game. That's the only win they have since 2017 in this series. So, it's been kind of some of those games that I feel like there have been times over the years where we're like, all right, Mississippi State's got a great shot here, but Tennessee just winds up grinding them, and they just don't get enough offensive output. And I feel like that could be the similar setup here, where it is, again, different team every year, but this is like, it feels similar to me in that maybe that winds up being the story of this game, where it is one of those things where it's like, all right, feels like this is a good spot for Mississippi State because, like you said, Max, everybody's going to kind of be down on Mississippi State. Everybody's going to be high on Tennessee. Starkville's just not an easy place to play. But Tennessee has seemingly been one of those teams been able to go in there and kind of make the game the way they want to play it. The one thing I would say, though, is, we talk about Tennessee and a team that, shoots the three pretty well, gets a good chunk of their points from three. But, if you really look at even in the Wisconsin game, you go all the way back to November 10th, they shoot 29% on the road there, and they've only played 2 road games at this point. Let's remember that. True road games. They shot 32% from three on the road against North Carolina, shot 26% neutral court against Purdue, shot 27% neutral court against Kansas. So you see the theme here is that Tennessee, like most teams, probably don't shoot it as well away from home. And so that could be something that kind of pops up here because they've shot it really well in other times. But you can also point at the NC State game, right, where they hit like 12 threes and shot 45% or something. But that's kind of been the outlier to this point. So, yeah, there's some interesting storylines in this one, whether it is kind of just Tennessee's history of going in there and making it a real, grind for Mississippi State, or, maybe it is just kind of a Mississippi State team that they finally get their best player back. And matchup wise, they certainly have some things I think they can do defensively to maybe bring out the worst in Tennessee, which, as we all know, over the past several years, the worst in Tennessee has always been, a 5-minute stretch where they just cannot find, the bottom of the net. And so, yeah, this is an interesting game on paper.
Blake, I feel like this is Tennessee versus Tennessee light. In other words, the things that Tennessee does really well and struggles with are maybe even magnified to a lesser or bigger degree at Mississippi State. In other words, Mississippi State's a really good defensive team, not as good as Tennessee. Mississippi State struggles on offense, so does Tennessee, but not to the degree that Tennessee struggles. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, probably just from a defensive. I mean, these are 2 of the 3 best defensive teams in the league, and I feel like they have been in terms of like just the style that they play. So I think there's something to that. I think the difference this year, though, is that Tennessee has just reached another gear offensively, and Mississippi State, although as we've said, they're shooting the ball better, and they are better than they were. I mean, so I think they're significantly better than they were last year offensively. But I don't know still if we're looking at them as a team that's like, an elite offensive team by any means. I don't know if we're there yet with Mississippi State. And so, yeah, I mean, maybe that is the best way to put it, is just you've got 2 teams that are going to be very physical. Yeah, so I think there's probably something to that. It's just Tennessee is kind of working their magic a little bit more effectively at times. But again, you talk about 2 teams that I think if you polled coaches in recent years, and it's like 2 teams just don't want to play because you don't know how your guys are going to react to the physicality and, other things like that. Like, I'd say these are probably 2 teams that would be very high up on the list for most coaches. So
we actually had a comment in I think it was our power rankings video. I know most of you guys don't read the comments, but a lot of our listeners really know what they're talking about, and you really get a different opinion sometimes when our listeners speak up and tell their opinions. And one guy said, Tennessee great on the road. Oh, hey Oreo, Tennessee great on the road, great at home, good on the road. And I was like, oh, that's a really good point. We just saw Tennessee be phenomenal at home, but have not seen them have that full 40 minutes that Rick Barnes after the game saying we were at our best. Haven't seen that away from home yet. So that's something I was like, that's a really good point that one of our listeners, just said in the comments. But if I'm speaking matchup wise here, there's one thing that Rick Barnes has said about Jonas Adu in a negative light. And I mean, Blake just picked Adu as player of the week, and he had a phenomenal game against Ole Miss. I mean, just amazing. But Rick Barnes has said he's been challenging Jonas physically to stop getting moved out of the box, to really stand his ground and stop getting moved out. And that's why he's had to play a walk a little bit more in some games. And if there's one thing that Tolu Smith and Jimmy Bell and these Mississippi State big men are elite at, it's low post position. So I'm splitting hairs here, and I'm really digging deep into the matchup. But if there's one thing that Tennessee might struggle a little bit with Mississippi State that they didn't with Ole Miss, is these Mississippi State guys are gonna just bang down low and try to bully Tennessee the way Tennessee bullied Ole Miss. And it's going to cause for a different matchup. It's a completely different game. So I really think this one's going to be interesting.
In case you guys who are longtime listeners wonder what makes all that noise, you can see it now. And boy, I had to hit the mute for about a minute because it didn't stop. But maybe Oreo was trying to tell us something. And here's what I think. I'll start with my prediction. I think these are both really good teams. I called one of them Tennessee and Tennessee Light. I look at Tennessee, and I feel like this is the team that still hasn't played to its ceiling. We noted Santiago Vescovi earlier. He's not been the offensive player that we thought he would be. So the rate stats are nowhere near what they've been. Now, look, it's a different team. You've got Dalton Connect and Jordan Gainey and some scoring there to where he didn't need to do that. We talked about Zakai Ziegler, how the first month was a struggle, and how it's been different since then. And I think two of the three of us named him our player of the week. I feel like Tennessee has been playing underneath its ceiling. Now, Mississippi State has too. No Tulu Smith. He's probably a top 5 player in the league coming in. So I don't want to dismiss that, but I just feel like you put all the parts together. Am I worried a little bit about Tennessee playing on the road? Yeah, because the last time out at North Carolina, that team was awful. The final score was not indicative of how the game was played. Tennessee lost by 8, I think was down 20-something. But you also had a similar game at Wisconsin on November 10th. As Blake pointed out, Wisconsin grinds you out even more, really slows you down. I think 347 in tempo. Not that Tennessee's a fast tempo team, but point is they've had a similar situation, responded well with an 80-70 win. I'm going to take Tennessee in this one. The road does scare me, but I think the Vols are the better team, even with the home court advantage for Mississippi State, and therefore I'm taking Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to stick with the recent trends, and that would suggest Tennessee wins here. But I'm just telling you, there's going to be an upset on this Wednesday night slate. Like it's going to happen. It may be this game, it may be the next game, it may be the game after that. This is one of those where we did our Tuesday predictions, and all of those were like, man, these could all potentially be 8+ point type games. These all 3 feel like they're like 4 or less. And so I don't know. I feel like this is one where I could definitely see Mississippi State winning this game, but I feel like this is much different for Tennessee than it was when they went to North Carolina. And it's also over a month ago. And so I just feel like they found their groove since then. And I think they do what they've done in recent years, and that's grind out another win here.
Yeah, I think a major piece here is just the job that Zakai Ziegler is going to be able to do on Josh Hubbard. Hubbard is pretty much the entirety of that Mississippi State perimeter attack, and it's just going to be a long night when you got a healthy Ziegler just all over you. And so I was really flirting with picking Mississippi State here. I'm not going to lie. I was close, because I really think the public is just going to jump all over Tennessee here, and that scares me. But I really think the matchup here, I think they'll be able to control Tolu Smith enough. I think Tolu Smith's going to have one of his better games. But give me Tennessee here on the road in a tight one.